All right, good afternoon. Welcome back to the Money Advantage podcast. Bruce, I'm excited to be here with you today as we're talking about something really important and also really kind of back to the basics. So I love when we have these conversations about things that are really kind of the fundamentals of wealth creation. And I think this is in that category today. We're talking about how to transform your savings into long-term wealth. Really, the idea of this is if you are saving, you're doing an amazing job. It's a huge step in the right direction towards finance, towards a financial future of financial freedom, being able to create true wealth. And yet, if you are saving, you might have this feeling that maybe that's sitting idle somewhere. Maybe it's going to be impacted by inflation. Maybe it's not growing for you the way that you'd like it to. And if you are saving, sometimes that can be, if it's disconnected from a larger wealth plan or a larger vision, it can actually handicap you. And so today we're talking about how to transform those savings into long-term wealth, how to make those savings do more than just be savings, but how to give them some superpowers and allow them to really work for you. So that's what we're talking about today. Bruce, I'd love to hear your perspective at the beginning of this episode.
So I'm glad you said that savings is really the first habit that you have to develop. In so many words, that's what you said. Because without the saving habit, you can't, you know, de deploy your capital at other places. And I was just having a conversation with my colleague this morning, and we try not to be of scarcity mindset. We try to be of abundance mindset. But there are some hard, fast rules that in order to be, delayed gratification, it's not scarcity, it's actually abundance because you're looking into the future where you're looking at your abundant self in the future, but you have to delay the gratification. And so I actually went out to lunch yesterday and I went to a restaurant and I saw all these high school kids at this pretty nice, it wasn't fast food, but it was kind of a sit down restaurant that wasn't a fine dining place, but it was going to cost you, anywhere between 15 and $20 to have a decent lunch. And I asked the server, I said, you're overwhelmed. She said, yeah, it's like that every day. And I got to thinking, every day these high school kids are spending 15 to $20 for lunch. Um, And then I hear my clients and my friends talk about how their kids can't afford a home, and I'm like, so I started looking back. I started looking back on my own life, and I hope I don't sound like the old guy. It was better in my days, but I, my wife and I got married in 1986, and we basically didn't have anything. Um, I did have a whole life policy, which I've talked about before, that had something like $3,750 in it. But we didn't have, you know, any other things, and we didn't have a home. And so we decided to save for the home to the point where, we didn't go out, we didn't entertain, we didn't go any entertainment. We just entertained by walking in the park, and we just did those things. We laugh now because one of the things we did was actually we lived in an apartment complex that had a peach tree. We actually went out to the peach tree and picked peaches, and we baked a pie as a little treat for ourselves instead of going out and eating somewhere else. And in less than a year, and the reason I know it was less than a year, we had saved enough money plus the money we had in the whole life contracts. Now I know that was a big benefit, but in less than a year we had equaled that amount of money because we had to furnish the new place, and you have to turn on utilities and those things. You needed the money. So if we could do it in less than a year, then if somebody wanted to do it in about 18 months, a year and a half, because we did it in 9 months. And the reason I know it's 9 months because we were ready to buy a house, but our lease wasn't up yet, our
Mm.
1 year lease. We actually bought our house and just didn't live in the apartment for 1 month because we just gave that up because we were so excited to move into the house.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I just like to tell the readers, they might say, yeah, but it was different back then. So we were actually going over this with some of our clients, and we said, so we decided we were going to save and delay gratification. So we bought a $74,500 home. Now, I'd like to then round that up to 75,000 for easy math. I made $19,000. My wife made $10,000. So $29,000. And oh, by the way, the interest rates are higher than they are now. They were 6.5%. And so now let's go forward and say in the St. Louis area anyway, a starter house you can get in for $300,000. I'm not saying that's like that across the United States, but $300,000. So that's four times $75,000. So that would mean then a couple that made four times $29,000. So let's just round it up to 30. If they have
120.
income $120,000 and they wanted to save in about 18 months, they should be able to save and be in a home in 18 months. I'm just using math here. Now I know probably some people are screaming and they're saying, well, what about the other things that have gone up, car payments and this and that? Okay, if you want to use all those excuses, go ahead and use all those excuses. But the fact of the matter is, I think the numbers pan out when I think through it. It's just a matter of whether you want to do it or not. And this is the old guy in me trying to, you know, rile people up. You have to look inside. I learned this from Nelson Nash. You have to look inside yourself and say, am I really doing everything I want to do to get to that delayed gratification into the future? So this is where
That's awesome, Bruce.
the first thing about savings comes about. And I know you and Lucas basically do the same thing. You teach your children the same thing.
100%. And actually, I was just going to comment a few things on your story. First of all, I just love hearing you share that so personally because I think it can be really easy for somebody who listens to us to think, oh yeah, you guys have it easy. You're in finance. Of course, it's, different for you. And Bruce, I think what's really interesting is how similar Lucas and I's start was to yours as well. So we got married. Lucas was still in college. I figured I'm going to go ahead and go to school as well. He's at the university. What else am I going to do? I'm moving away from everything I know anyways. I may as well get my degree. And so he had a stipend through it was like he was paid to be in this particular program. It was really amazing. But what we saw is all of his peers who were also in the same program would have a new TV one week, 1 month, and they would have, go do these expensive dinners. They would do all this stuff. I specifically remember the TVs because we had one of his peers was living in the same apartment complex that we were and bragging about these new things that they had. And we did not do any of those things. You could say we lived in a scarcity mindset. We did. We saved almost every single penny that we made. And by the time then we were ready to move across the country, we were easily able to pay for a moving truck. That wasn't even a pinch. And then we had still, I think, 10,000 in savings beside after 2 years in school, basically making no income at all. And so I think the point that I took away from what you said and that I notice with every single person who has achieved wealth, they had that component built almost in their bones in the beginning that led them to not spend everything they make. And it's 100% critical to be able to delay gratification, not because you think you can't buy something, not because you think you are not good enough to purchase something, but because you're being more intentional about the future version of yourself, the future self. You're valuing tomorrow more than today. And I think that's the key. It was really important that you mentioned that, Bruce. It's not a scarcity mindset to think about the future. It's not a scarcity mindset to value tomorrow over today. It's a scarcity mindset if you say, I can't do anything, I can never enjoy life. But a friend, and maybe it's not a friend of mine, somebody that I know that I listen to their work, they had this idea that has just stuck with me. And they said they love to have a maximum of results with a minimum of means. Meaning, how can I produce the greatest in my life, whether it's beauty in my home, whether it's an amazing meal with a minimum of tools, meaning I, the human, am the main creator of this thing. I created the home and the value, not that I purchased this really expensive thing, but I created this beauty. And what's really amazing is that there's so many things that you can do that are more wonderful, more enjoyable, and more fulfilling that can cost far less. And I think we over rely in America, especially on the fulfillment and the happiness that comes from the purchase of that thing that we think is going to satisfy that.
So Connor, my colleague,
Hmm.
we were talking about this. He just had his first child, just turned one,
Hmm.
a couple months ago, and you know, he he actually sees it in his friends, and he tries to do what we're talking about right now. Um, and he says it's really hard with Instagram, and
Yes.
that is one thing I didn't have back then, and you didn't have it back then when you and Lucas were. But if you know about it and you know it's a influence on you, then that's the first step of getting over it.
Hmm.
Um, and there's a variety of things I think that has come into our culture that people kind of think you're not worthy if you're delaying gratification. Oh, you got to live life now. Life is too precious, and there's a balance there. I
Yes.
think they've gone way overboard. And then at the same time, then that's fine. You want to live life now? Well, then don't say you want to retire at the age of 50. I mean, you can't have it both ways. And so, getting back to the savings, then the other thing that savings does for you, it allows you to take advantage of opportunities. So, in our outline today, we're talking about the difference between saving money and positioning capital. And there's this thing on Instagram now, YouTube. People say you have to get your money moving. You have to get it working for you. You have to get it working for you. We just had a person reach out to us who was a referral, and somebody had told him to, he had he could get $1 million line, very, very, very successful person, probably worth about $30 million. You can get a you could get a line of credit against your business for $1 million. And why are you just letting that money sit in your business? You need to go out and trade options with that money. You got to get it moving. You got to get it moving. You got to get it moving. Well, I'm sad to report, in one year he lost $795,000 of the line of credit.
Mm.
Now, I don't care how much your money's going backwards just sitting in a savings account because of cost of living. It's not going to go down 79% in one year.
True. Yes.
Okay. Now, Warren Buffett knows this. I did a little research before the meeting, this podcast. Warren Buffett knows this. We talked about it before. Warren Buffett, as of late 2025, so maybe like 6 weeks ago, Berkshire Hathaway was sitting on $380 billion of cash, which is 31% of all the assets in Berkshire Hathaway. And I've studied Buffett, and Buffett says he would rather be sitting on cash and losing the value of money rather than putting it into a place that he didn't research well, didn't stick to his principles, and lose the money. Because his first rule is never lose money. And his second rule is if you forget, just look at rule one again. That's rule number two.
Yep.
If you forget rule one or forget rule two, look at rule number one. And so he's got in treasuries, short-term treasuries, one month, 3 month, maybe 9 months, maybe 12 months. And what he's looking for is, yeah, I might be going backwards for a year, 2 years, 3 years, but he's looking for that opportunity that when he jumps on it now, I was going backwards from the cost of living, 2%, 3%, 2%, 3%. But now when he jumps in, he could actually make 30% for his clients in one year because of a depressed asset. And so this is the value of positioning capital. Okay. So that's what I think people need to overcome, is just getting this, what is commonly called velocity of money right now.
I love that you pointed that out, Bruce, because when I first said savings is great, we don't want to just keep only saving. You want to be in a position of building wealth. What I don't want people to hear is you got to get it moving, you got to get it moving, you got to get it moving. That savings is bad. What we do need to correct that way of thinking and say savings is powerful. Savings is the beginning. Savings is the foundation. Savings is the starting point. It's almost the ticket. It's the price that you pay. It's the admission ticket. That's what I'm looking for. It's the admission ticket to building wealth. You have to be willing and able to delay gratification and save. And then what you said, Bruce, instead of jumping on opportunity, anything looks good, any squirrel, I've just got to jump into something because I'm feeling like I'm behind unless I'm obsessively moving forward. That is a different way of thinking. It's a different energy. It's a different intention and a different position of your heart than saying positioning capital. Positioning capital is very intentional. It's slow, it's methodical, it's strategic, it's wise, it's prudent. And notice I said slow. You're not just making that jump fast decision because something looked really good. Warren Buffett is really wise and he's
Yeah.
positioning capital.
And this is what, and we're not going to go into this, but I'd like to just mention that this is why when we run into people that say they want to build life insurance policies where they have the maximum cash value right away so they can go deploy it because that's what they need to do. Um, that that often causes what many economists, Austrian economists, call malinvestments. You're just going to do an investment just for the sake of investment because you have easy access to cash and you think you have to deploy it. This is the boom and bust cycle. It's a boom and bust cycle in the economy. And that's why the Austrians don't like setting interest rates artificially by some Federal Reserve chairman. They want the markets to set them. And so easy money, you get a boom, and then there's a bust. Buffett knows this. So he's waiting for the bust. And then there's going to be a run up, 30% run up. In just a few months, it'll happen. And so now, when we do use life insurance strategies, use life insurance strategies, one of the nice reasons to use life insurance strategy. Oh, by the way, before I go there, um, there may be some people out there that are saying, "Well, wait a minute. If you got a 1 month treasury, a 3 month treasury, a 9 months treasury, a 12 months treasury, maybe that's not as liquid as it needs to be because all of a sudden there's an opportunity. Maybe Buffett doesn't have enough money in like a money market account where he can just deploy it. Well, when you have $380 billion in cash and you're Buffett, you have lines of credit. Okay. So, yeah, we can't maybe scale the same way that Buffett does because Buffett will go to his banks and say, okay, I'm going to put up these treasuries against the line of credit and it'll be free in 1 month, 3 months. And of course, they're going to charge him an interest rate. However, when you have that much money, you can almost dictate the interest rate to the bank because if you don't give it to me, they're gonna love the fact that even for 3 months, they're gonna get a tenth of a percentage on that collateral that's in a U.S. Treasury. So you can do the same thing in life insurance. You can hold your capital in life insurance, and that will be the greatest capital that the life insurance company has to give you a loan against. And so you may not be able to jump on an opportunity totally, but that line of credit you can have access in 2 to 5 days and jump into a situation. Now, you wouldn't want to keep all your money in there. We always talk about having 15-minute money. So you might be able to transfer directly from your checking account, savings account, money market account right into your investment account and taking advantage of it. But most of the investments we're talking about are investments that are going to be negotiated, whether it's a multifamily apartment complex or maybe a private equity deal or buying a business, something like that. There's going to be a negotiating period of time. And you can say, I just met with one of my clients uh, Wednesday. and he's been diligently saving in his whole life. And he owns this really nice Medicare and health insurance business. And he's acquiring other brokers as they sell. And he's sitting on almost $800,000 of cash. And he said, Bruce, I just found another one. I'm going to buy it out. It's going to actually double our size. And I told the guy I can have 25% of the money to him in 1 week. He needs $500,000. We're going to borrow against his policy. That allowed him to be the number one person when this guy was selling. So he told the guy, I don't know if you have better offers, but I can get you 25% of the money in 1 week. And
Bruce, what
so,
you're talking about is control.
yes,
It's control. And so if you save, you have capital. Because you have capital, you have negotiating power. You mentioned Warren Buffett being able to practically set interest rates. You have control when you have capital. And what I want to distinguish as well is savings doesn't mean I'm just going to spend it tomorrow. I'm just saving up for a car. I'm just saving up to go on vacation. I'm just saving up for purchasing this next thing that is an expense. Savings is money that you're putting aside for the future. Now, what is interesting is if you think about your savings as net investable income, it can change the thinking around savings. If you're saying, I have this income and it's 30%, 40% of your income that you're making, you're sliding that over into a savings account and you're saying, this is not just parked money. This is literally my net investable income. I'm increasing a portion of what I make and slotting that, allocating that for investments. I'm slotting that into investable income that has to be stored somewhere in a spot that is safe that I'm going to hold until I'm ready to make a decision for the best use of deploying that capital. And what I want to point out with this is that's how you get control because you have the capital that is in your power to choose what to do with it. And you don't just want to say, well, I have savings. I sporadically put money into savings. But if you have a system, you are able to turn your income into savings, into an opportunity that creates cash flow, which then can increase your income. And that is a system. A system is something that continues to work. I literally think of this every single time I say the word system. We have, if you've ever built those 3D puzzles out of wood, we got one for our daughter several years ago, and it was this cool machine. Like you turn this crank, and a marble goes through this whole process after you built the whole thing first out of wood. It's probably like 300 different pieces you put together, and then you put the marbles in, and they follow this whole track, and then it like raises the marbles up to the beginning again, and they go back through. It's a system because the marbles never stop. As long as you're turning the crank, they continue traveling through this system. And if you're going to have a financial system, that means a path for everything to travel, rules that are set in place. It doesn't mean you're sporadically, randomly making decisions. And a system could be I preserve a portion of my income that automatically goes over into a place that I'm going to hold. You could call it a wealth, what some people call
wealth
it
accumulation account.
wealth accumulation account. Could be a saving. You can think of it that way. It could be a savings account. It could be any particular spot. And that capital then you are holding until you have the right lever to pull to say this is a good opportunity, and that capital can flow then into another opportunity. But here's the amazing thing with that system is if you find the best tool to utilize for that savings component, you can amplify the whole system. And here's how I like to think about it. I like to think if I am just using, say, a savings account, I'm putting the percentage of income into the savings account. It's resting there until I find a reason to deploy it. I deploy the capital. I put that into an investment. So I've moved the money from here to another spot. Now I have cash flow. That's going to increase my income over here. And that starts the system again. So now because I've increased my income, I can put more percentage of that income now into my wealth accumulation account because the income's higher. I don't need to spend it all. I'm going to put more here. That is a system. But if I can just optimize this savings part, I like to use specially designed whole life insurance. I know you do. I know a lot of our clients are doing that. If we utilize specially designed whole life insurance, now this this tool allows me to put money into savings here in the cash value of a life insurance policy. And when I deploy that capital, I don't take it out. I'm now in a position of accessing that capital, putting it to work additionally in this other opportunity. And I'm amplifying the whole system because now my money is working still in that initial place of that policy and also in another opportunity. And there's all the additional benefits of having a death benefit as well, having the ability to continue utilizing that capital over and over from that same account.
So I'd like to just kind of wrap up today with an action plan for the listeners.
Awesome.
Um, so I would suggest that you try what I do. And I think I'm fairly disciplined. I think I've proven that over the years. Now, I wasn't always disciplined. I had to learn from my father and my mentors and so on and so forth. But my account is not in my business operation account. It is not in my wife and I's personal checking accounts. It's actually at a separate credit union. The credit union is not linked to our other bank. Our credit union does not have ATM cards. Okay. So the only way that I can actually do that is physically go to the bank and withdraw the money to put it somewhere else. So we have a certain percentage of our money goes into that account every month. And in all of our investments we've done in the previous years, as it snowballs, all the returns don't go back into our checking account for what we often refer to as lifestyle creep. They go into that account. Then when I have a premium due,
A
it
premium
goes
for your life
into
insurance policy.
for the life insurance policy. It goes into the life insurance policy. Whatever's left over, I can decide, do I want to start another policy or do I want to just go ahead and take the money there and do an investment with that? And of course, many times I've borrowed against my cash value, made an investment, and the distributions from that go back to there until I decide, okay, I want to pay the loan back, and it comes from that account back to the loan. And so, but it's a place that, like you said, you're intentional. You're intentional. You're putting somewhere else, and I've taken and put some strategic guardrails for me to say I don't have easy access to that money.
Bruce,
So
and
you might try that.
you're being super honest about your own human nature. And I think
Mhm.
that often we are not honest about our own human nature because we like to think I'm better than that. I'm better than having to put my phone away in the drawer in the other room because I'm better than that. I'm not going to check it. I'm better than, I'm not, I don't need certain intention, some guardrails around my life because, well, I'm a good person. I'm not going to make a bad decision with that. I'm going to just put it in the bank account inside of my own bank. I won't touch it. I promise I won't. But then we do. And what you're saying is you recognize our human nature is to err, is to sin, is to fail, is to not miss the mark, is to fall off the two sides of the road instead of stay on the straight and narrow path that we intended. And because of that, you're saying, I am going to make this difficult to make a bad decision. And if we're honest, all of the good people are doing something to that effect. They recognize I also am prone to wander. I also am prone to err and to do the wrong thing. So I'm going to make it difficult for me to do so.
And generationally, then you should be teaching your children the same thing.
Yes.
Um, Teaching them, they have they when they get money, whether it's even a birthday, money, and I know you do this with your children,
Yes, we do.
you know, they put a portion here that they can spend on whatever they feel like. They should put a portion away for the future. And then some families, put a stipend portion away that, for the church or in a charitable situation or whatever. Um,
We do a super simple give, save, spend, three envelopes, certain percentage, and it's usually 40% savings. 50% spending, 10% giving. They take the giving money and they put that in the offering at church. The saving money then moves over to a savings account, so they don't have the ability to go say, oh, let me just pull out of that savings envelope. It's not available for them. And our older daughter has enough that she's now not just in a savings account, but a savings account and a higher interest bearing account that's even harder to get to. And then the spending money is their cash, and they're freely able to spend that and plan for what they would like most, which also often means delaying gratification even with that spending portion, because as you know, if you spend the spending money today, it's not available for that nice thing that you want to buy tomorrow. So, Bruce, this has been really an awesome conversation today. I hope that it was helpful for somebody who is thinking, I do need systems. I do need more intentionality, or I am already making great decisions. I have a strong foundation. I've been a great saver. I'm trying to figure out now how to go from that great savings. I've got a lot of money sitting in cash and capital. I have the control of that, but how do I take that to the next level? How do I start building wealth without just throwing it away, without putting it at risk, without putting it in a position of potential loss, like the gentleman you mentioned that lost the nearly $800,000 of the line of credit? How do I intentionally turn this savings, this foundation, how do I build upon that, build these layers, build up this wealth plan that is secure? So if you would like help with that, you can book a call with our advisors at themoneyadvantage.com, and we're looking forward to helping you do that in your life so that you can turn savings into a wealth system. We look forward to talking with you then, and please remember, in closing, success leaves clues. So model the successful few, not the crowd, and build a life